pledged my devotion to the Divine Mother and felt this ray of love just go into my heart like nothing I've ever felt before.
Aspen Roots.
Okay, welcome back to another episode. This is episode 17, and we are super excited to welcome our third guest, our dear friend Andrea, all the way from New York City. Thank you for being here, Andrea. I'm just going to say real briefly, we know Andrea from Barbara Brennan's School of Healing. We did some very, very deep work with her over the course of 3 years and have been in constant contact since, and the growth continues. And Andrea is a huge inspiration to our lives.
Likewise.
Thank you. And with this being the third guest we've had on our podcast, this is the first time I have no idea what we're going to talk about, which is awesome because it means I didn't have to do any prep work around that. But I also feel totally comfortable and confident because knowing Andrea, this is going to be full of inspiration, love, light, and I can tell you a lot of unique core essence. Andrea's very, very comfortable letting her unique essence shine, and it's something that I really value in my witnessing of it. So, Andrea, thank you for being here on this podcast with us.
Thank you. Thank you both so much for creating what you have. I am so inspired by your podcast, so inspired by the oracles, the weekly feelings. I feel like I need to have a podcast just to introduce you all. But thank you so much. And I'd love to start with just a little prayer, if nobody objects.
Please.
And thank you also for trusting me in just this process and trusting Spirit, because I feel like Spirit is very excited that we're together.
Yeah, definitely.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, so just taking a breath, inviting the audience, the listeners to take a breath too with us, and just relax into your body. Mother, Father, God, we invite you into this space as we seek to share stories. Please inspire our minds to let your words flow, let the love flow, let the light flow. Our intention is only of the highest good. Oh, man, indeed. You got the eyes closed.
Yeah. We're only 45 minutes off of our last deep meditations. Easy to snap right back into it, I think.
Yeah. It's a nice level of peace and calm.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about where to start, and what came to me was just, how does one start on the spiritual path? I think that's a really big question that people have. And when I think about my own life, I actually feel like I have to go back a generation to my mom. So my mom was a banker, okay, very conservative, straight-laced, doing her thing. And then all of a sudden, she started to have memories of some childhood abuse as she was pregnant with me and my brother. And she wasn't really sure what it was or what was happening. And she didn't have a lot of resources. She had started to do therapy. And for whatever reason, somehow she was guided to go do ayahuasca in South America. And this was back in like the 80s, right? So not like today where there's so much communication about plant medicine. She did ayahuasca. She basically blew open, saw all of the abuse, was able to accept it and face it, and just came back a changed woman. And I really credit her taking that ayahuasca with who I am today. Because when she took that ayahuasca, it opened her to spirit. It opened her to her healing journey. It opened her to process. And it was not easy. It was very difficult. When she got back, she had PTSD. I think she blew out a lot of her chakras based on now what we know of Barbara Brennan. She didn't have the integration exactly that she needed. So she had to take like 6 to 9 months off work, ended up getting fired, and had to just kind of change her entire life, divorce my dad, just really went on her journey. And I share that not to encourage everyone to go do ayahuasca, but that, that's cool if you want to, but just that this is my story. And this was the break that was needed in our ancestral line, I of being kind of closed down. So that was kind of like the momentum that broke open, I feel like, our lineage. And the way my mom raised us, I lived with her part-time, was just very fluid. And we talked about spirituality, and we talked about grounding, something still working on 36 years later. But I remember after she'd pick me up from school or high school, and every Friday we'd go to this yummy Italian restaurant and have a late lunch, and we would just talk spiritual stuff. I remember her explaining closing and opening with a sugar lid.
How cute.
And she's like, when you open a lot, you gotta close. And it was just so special. And I'm just so grateful that I had a mom that was just open to spirit. She took like a big chance doing this ayahuasca and then going on my journey, and then was able to teach me.
Yeah.
And at the time, she actually had a Barbara Brennan practitioner as a spiritual teacher. And in my teens is when I first started talking to her. I didn't know what she was doing because it was all by phone. I don't know, video chat, I guess, was not as popular back then. And I had no idea what she was doing, but I just knew I felt better afterwards. And I couldn't tell you why or what. But after talking to her, life felt possible. My high school experience was pretty shitty. I don't know, probably for most teens it is, but just depression and bullying and isolation and all that stuff. And having her really helped. I didn't talk to her a lot, but the times I did was super helpful.
So was it more than just a conversation with her? She was doing remote energy work at the same time?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
wondering.
She was, oh yeah, for sure. No, it was a session. It was a full-on session, but we just had no idea what she was doing.
Cool.
Or I didn't know. Maybe my mom knew. Yeah, and she was definitely like a guiding person for me. And then going into my 20s, leaving home, and then I moved to Montreal, and I okay, I'm going to tell another drug story, which this is not supposed to be about drugs at all. And I don't actually recommend drugs for spiritual enhancement at all. But I was just in Montreal and I tried weed for like the second time. And I'm very sensitive. And I ended up seeing beams of light that Barbara talks about, connecting people when they laughed. I saw alternate realities stacked up on each other. I was channeling, and I never channeled before. And I was just open with spirit. And then meanwhile, my friend smoked the exact same amount. She always smoked, totally fine. It was just like, what is happening to you? I was high for like 2 days, and I'm so grateful for the Barbara Brennan practitioner, because she really could help me navigate what happened, what is going on, and to really encourage me never to do drugs. So that was actually my last foray into mood altering substances, except for food, of course, which is mood altering. And I tell that story just because that was kind of like the first little things of like, oh, there's something much bigger out there. And also just to illustrate the importance of guidance, to have someone that has walked a lot further on her path. And she had weekly group sittings of process. So I started processing and just seeing how she worked in a group and held people in so much love. And to see how that love would transform whatever issue they were having. Just so powerful. And again, just always feeling better afterwards, always feeling better.
Let me ask you, when you say you saw light cords connecting people when they laughed, did you actually see that with your physical eyes, or using that word?
Yes.
Saw that.
I
So
actually physically saw them with my eyes. Yes.
that's amazing. And obviously, if that happened to any of us, it'd be a huge propeller along our spiritual journeys. And so
Yes.
just to add to your disclaimer about not recommending drugs, as somebody who's smoked weed thousands of times, that's never happened to me. And I know thousands of people who have smoked it thousands of times, and it's never happened. And so I think that really says a lot about who you are, who you came into this life as, and who you prepared yourself to be energetically, whether it's through the experience with your mother or through those sessions. But really powerful.
That is actually what my teacher told me at the time. I mean, she was like, you're a little bit different. You don't, your body's really sensitive. You shouldn't be doing drugs. And she was so sweet. And I'm going to tell you this. She was like, you are a drug for other people. You are a drug for other people just by being who you are. And I feel like that we all are that, as light workers. We are a natural drug for people just to feel the divine. And that's my prayer. That is my prayer. That is my desire in life, is to be a channel of love and light in this world. Because really, what else matters?
So true.
So,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you absolutely embody that. Like when I talk to you, yes.
trying,
Yes. You light
trying
my
to get rid
day.
of all the human stuff so it's a pure channel.
Well, yeah, I mean, we all face that challenge for sure. We're all human. We all have to deal with issues or problems, but you bring your light very easily, very free flowing, and your smile and your essence seems to come easily. So just want to reflect that back to you.
I just love God so much. I love Goddess so much. I just want to share the light. And it takes so much purification work and dedication to your path to feel more and more affected by it. And I would say that's like a very central part of my life, is doing all of the upkeep that you need to do to keep your channels clear. And I'm not saying I have a clear channel. I'm saying, as humans, and none of us do, right? We are like walking blocks and sludge and mud and all the things, which is okay. That's the human experience. But it's like, how do we clean that stuff up? Are we dedicated enough to God, Goddess, to our path, to do the purification, to do the meditation, to do the energy work, to do physical exercise, to be careful about what you're eating? And that's why I love you two and your podcasts, and is because you're really encouraging people to look at their lives from all dimensions and in a spiritual way, that the food you eat has an impact on your channel, that the signs that you see, there's so much guidance. Like it's really beautiful.
Totally.
I think in metaphors, and as you were saying that, I was thinking about a house. You can clean your whole house and you can have a clean house, but it doesn't mean your house is clean forever, because it's probably only clean for a day or two at
That's
best, maybe a
true.
week.
That's a great
So
metaphor.
it's just a continuous
That's
process.
Yeah.
It's a continue, and that's awesome. I think it goes on forever until we actually unite in source. This is the journey, is to clean house, like every
Yeah.
day, every minute, every second. And yeah, it will never be clean. Or I don't even think it'll be clean for a second. But
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. And it's beautiful. And it's what God has intended for us to learn.
Yeah, I think it's very moment to moment being a human, just depending on what we're all going through or experiencing. That's been my reality. I did want to take it back to when you saw all the alternate realities. Did that give you any insight as to the power of free will choice?
Ooh, love that question. I
Yeah.
don't think I was smart enough at the time to figure out. I was like, well, how old was I? Like 19 or something. I just remember that was really wild. I remember I was sitting on a balcony in Montreal, and there was just rows and rows of houses, and then the rows of houses had different dimensions, and some of them looked cartoon actually. And that was very interesting. It was like, oh, there's cartoon dimensions. And one other thing I'll say about that story is, I forgot to say, is when I was walking home from my friend's house to my apartment, first of all, I can't believe I made it home alone. Second of all, I remember I was behind a couple who was obviously in love, because it felt so good to be behind them. And I could see cords of like light and love around them. And it was so, so beautiful.
That's
It was so
awesome.
beautiful.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah. Power of relationship, right?
Yes,
You
yes.
two know a lot about that.
Power of love.
Power of love.
Power
Yeah.
of ancient love, you two over here.
Oh, so sweet.
I
Oh.
always remember when we were in Sedona together, and we had a beautiful sound with our friend, also BBSH graduate. And then I went into a trance and did some channeling, and the guides came through, and they had a specific message for you too. I can't remember what it was, but what I do remember so strongly is they tuned into your love, and the feeling and the ancientness and the power of it was incredible. It was
Mm.
incredible. I like still carry that feeling in me.
Thank you for reminding us. Thank you.
Getting chills right
Oh.
now as you say that. And that's something we hear throughout our spiritual journey from so many people who tune into it, is that, wow, this is ancient. This is not new. You guys have had this for a long time. And, it used to be a story that we were told from outsiders ourselves. But I think recently, at least for me, I really feel that. It's a sense that I have. It's not something I can completely analyze and with my mind, but I feel it and I know it on an intuitive, deep level.
Yeah. I definitely knew first thing when we met, and it's just deepened over the years. There's a bond there that holds us together. There's a really deep love and wanting to be together.
Yeah, and along those lines, and I'm mentioning this part because, in the intro, I mentioned that Andrea is full of her authentic self, her authentic essence. And Sophia and I, the more that we stand in each of our own authentic, unique essence, the more we really see each other on that soul, on that ancient love level.
Yeah.
And there's a longer story that I can make real brief, that we actually encountered each other several times before we actually met the way we met, that turned into dating. And we didn't see each other in
Right.
those times because
Yeah.
our masks, both of them, were so strong, and we didn't recognize ourselves or each other for who we truly were. And it wasn't until we had each individually done enough work to break out of those constraints that were masking our true essence, that's when we finally started to really see each other. And that work continues, and that's why I think that it's getting easier and easier to sense that ancient love.
Yeah, I agree. And when we really met each other, I saw the light in your eyes. And so before I wasn't able to see that. And it was only by doing my own internal work that I could recognize that, because I had uncovered the falsities in myself and really came more into my own authentic heart and authentic core essence. So yeah, everyone out there, I believe in the power of recognizing your soulmates and your ancient friends through their eyes. There's a feeling you get when you've known someone before, recognize them, see their light, just a familiarity in the eyes. And I definitely had that when I first met you for the official dating first time. I don't know, when
Yeah.
I really saw you.
Yeah. So Andrea is a powerful channeler, and that was my first time really experiencing it. And it was cool to be in a live setting,
Mm.
and it was spot on, amazing, and really cool that you do that. So you go to a channeling school, don't you?
I used to go more. Life got so busy, but I still do her meditations. So I'm not channeling in like a structured way so much these days. But I do think channeling comes into daily life all the time, especially as a creative. I feel like the reason why I was able to pick up channeling so quickly is because I'm a fashion designer, so I'm sketching and I feel the designs come through the same part of my brain that I feel like when I am channeling. And it's been a really fun process to kind of play with the two and do channel designs and stuff. And like
Aw.
and I love that, just like sitting in meditation. And sometimes I want them to be thinking of a design and then to hear it, to see something come through, or for them to resolve the design issue I'm having in meditation is really awesome. So if any of my students are listening, try meditating, try seeing how that amplifies your design process and any creative process. Because when we go into meditation and connect with source, we're in that unlimited field. We're not in the constraints of our human rational mind. So there's just infinite possibility of creation.
Totally.
So I have a channeling story that I remember that involves you, and I want to get to that in a minute. But to bring some more context to what you just said, so you're a fashion designer. I believe you design the clothes that you're wearing, and you said you're students. So you want to say a little bit more about that?
Yes. Okay. So my like MO in life right now is, I mean, other than God, always God first. Second is binding, healing, and fashion. So what I'm wearing right now, this is a conductive vest. And the logic is that that does amplify your energy field while meditating or actually, just while you have it on, like while I'm wearing this, I feel like I am receiving a healing because it's allowing the energy to run up and down my spine more freely. And I just feel like there's so much potential for clothing because it's something we all have to wear if we're not in the nudist colony. And so it's like so much potential for healing, whether it's a conductive fiber or whether it's natural dyes infused with the essence of healing plants, or whether it's crystal buttons. Like there's so much potential for our clothing. So I'm working on a bunch of things at the moment and excited to launch probably December. I'm gonna launch my business during the winter solstice.
Great.
Beautiful. I love your thought about that, and releasing it in line with the astrological forces. And
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, for sure. It was either summer solstice, and I was like, well, that's not happening. I need to go travel. So it's going back. We're pushing it back 6 months.
And do you know
Nice.
what it'll be called? Your line?
It'll be called Diodati, which is my last name, and it also means God's gift. And this is God's gift through me, I guess.
Nice.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So I'm wearing a knitted cotton hoodie, and
Yay,
cotton
cotton!
hoodie I have only worn
Mhm.
at healing ceremonies and in meditations, and otherwise it sits in my closet. So
Yep.
I try to infuse it with good energy. Figured that being here with a fashion designer talking about a spiritual podcast would be a good time to bust it out of the closet. So yeah,
Very nice.
wearing it with
I
intention.
mean, our clothing, all objects, they have the essence, right? Just as just as people connect to plant essence during plant medicine ceremonies, we have the opportunity to connect with the essence of our garments, with the essence of our objects, because everything is made out of natural materials somewhere down the line, it all has essence to it. And I'm just checking in. So can I tell you a story about the vaccine and essence?
Yes,
Please do.
absolutely.
Okay. I was one of the people that was like a little hesitant to get the vaccine because of all of the hoopla and everything that was happening. Circumstance wise, I had to get it. And so I was nervous. So I just sent so much love to that vaccine. Dwayne Reed was my temple. I loved that temple up before I went. Just charged it. I got the vaccine. I was like, oh, okay, this is, I'm okay. I come home and I just start to feel waves of love radiating through me, waves and waves and waves of love. And I couldn't even talk to anybody anymore. I had to go lie down. My guides came and gave me a really beautiful feeling and explained why I was so nervous, that in a past life I had been bitten by a snake. So it was the venom had killed me. So it was something about being punctured, that I had this past life fear come up. And what the guide showed me was really that you can connect to anything in this world with your intention, align with their essence, and it can be for good. Even if something had bad intentions, being made, not saying that the vaccine was or was not, who knows, but you can connect with your essence and their essence, your essence, your intention, God, and anything can be a healing moment. They literally told me, even an apple, go eat an apple and be with that essence and receive that healing.
Mhm.
So I believe that our entire universe is set up for our healing. We are just too much in our sludge and our conditioning and our shit to be able to receive it. And that's where, again, the purification process is so important. And I love the story that you just shared about how you two didn't see each other.
Mhm.
This ancient love did not see each other because you have the work to do, right? There was stuff that was blinding, right?
Mhm.
And then the more you went through your process, you could see each other, you could feel each other. And then now, as you've been on this path, it's just getting deeper and deeper. The more you purify, the more you are with yourself. And personally, my life is just getting better and better and better. The more I work through my shit, the more I'm with God, the more I'm a goddess. And I'm starting to recognize things and feel things that I couldn't feel before because I had all the conditioning, I had all the layers, I had all the shit, which is okay. You know, again, we're human and we're all exactly where we need to be, and it's all beautiful. But I just want to encourage people to do the work because it's so good after. The life is so good. Like, life is so juicy right now. Like, I wake up, I'm so excited.
Oh, I love it. And I just want to clarify too. I think it's more about, and you guys we can have a conversation about this, like finding out who you're not. I think so many of us were told to be a certain person. And so we became that person by, our parents or authority or society. And so when you start to wake up to, oh, wow, this really isn't me. And who am I really, is what we are talking about when we're saying doing the work and being brave enough to put the social norms aside and say, mom, dad, or society, this really isn't who I am. This is really who I am, and start living those truths.
Yeah, and it's all energy. All this stuff carries energy. So it's one thing to mentally recognize it,
Yeah.
but it's another thing to tap into that energy and then find that energy of who you truly are, and then sense the energy of who you're not and see how they interplay and see how quickly you are to let the energy that you're not take over. And then just it's a dance, and you learn how
Yeah.
to become stronger and more purposeful in your dance of
Mhm.
being who you are. And again, it never ends. And yeah, it's I think you just kind of slide into the rhythm with the process, and you're not as afraid and spooked in ways that you used to react to the process, but the process continues. But as you get better at dancing it, it's just a lot more fun, I think.
Yeah.
It's so much fun, right? Being in your essence, it feels so good. Being with God feels so good.
Yeah.
That's what my favorite part of my day is, my meditation, being with Amma, who we haven't talked about yet, but I'm sure we will. Essentially God, the divine, and having that felt experience of the divine. There's nothing better in life. And I just want to go back to your point, Sophia, of all of that conditioning that we all have, being born at this time into this world, into this society. There is just so much untangling we have to do.
Mhm.
So much untangling. And as I was saying, the universe, I feel like is set up for our healing. Our society is not.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like everything that society conditions you to do is not good for you. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, eat this fast food, watch this mind numbing TV, it's like, do all this shit, make the money, da, 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 da. And really, that none of it matters. All that matters is your relationship with the divine. And if people feel uncomfortable with that word, replace that with life force.
Mm.
We live in a numbing culture, and really the most yummy thing is, like you said, Brandon, is being in your essence is the most yummy thing, feeling that life force in you. And I'm so excited. I'm 36. I'm so excited. Maybe I get another 50 years just to see what spirit's got, and to deepening into feeling my pulse, feeling that life force, because it's changing. And there were many years I could not feel that, for sure. I am going through a lot of life transition right now, divorce, just I don't know where I'm living. And I feel like my life force is breaking free.
Mm.
All the structures I've put on myself, of all of the conditioning, I'm just so in gratitude. When I tell people I'm getting divorced, they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, you should be congratulating me.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And not to say anything bad about him, bless him, and I want him to find somebody amazing and have a beautiful life. But our karma was done, and my piece of that is lifted, and I feel so much more in my essence. And I'm so grateful. I'm so
Awesome.
grateful.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Very beautiful. Yeah. I think the listeners out there can definitely relate, a lot of people, to that journey and finding life when you think maybe your life is ended, you're at a divorce or something like that, and then being reborn and finding new life and a new hope, and finding your essence and your truth and living another life after that. That's not the end. So
There's always something better.
It
There's
always
always something better.
Yeah.
Never the end.
Yeah.
Never the
It's
end.
never.
So I wanted to circle back to that story that I was reminded of when you're talking about how channeling just impermeates all aspects of your life, and you're a healer, having graduated the Barbara Brennan School of Healing. And so during school, I had a healing with you. You were giving me a healing. And at the end of the healing, you said that my guides told me that you're a soothsayer. And I
Soothsayer.
said, what's a soothsayer? And you're like, I have no idea. And I was like, I have no idea either. And so just a little tangent here. I always like to keep like a healthy dose of skepticism is what I say. And so when the channeler comes through with something and they have no idea what they just said, that's more confirmation for me that it's not coming from ego or programming and is coming from a source beyond. And so I Googled it, the definition of soothsayer, and it's somebody who's involved with predicting the future. Oh, and the other part of it was that, and my abilities are returning. And it was interesting because right around that time, I had like a newfound interest in psychics, and I was watching weekly psychic prediction on YouTube, and it's something that I get guidance for directly. You were one of the first conscious nudges that, hey, look what you're doing. There's a reason for this. It's part of your soul interest, at least. And so it was really interesting for that to happen.
Well, I would say it was definitely not me. It was just the guides. It was the guides coming through. and
Yeah.
um and they just wanted you to know that, yeah, you could do that yourself.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So
How are you? Want to talk about Amma?
I was gonna say, I think we're at
yeah,
Amma, right?
yeah. I was wondering if you had anything else.
We all want to hear about Amma. I can feel it. The excitement is bubbling. So tell us about who Amma is. Amma Karunamayi, is that correct?
Yes, Amma Sri Karunamayi. Oh, avatar of the Divine Mother, who I've been so blessed to be introduced to. I know it is the biggest blessing of my life, is having been introduced to her work, to just who she is. I'm going to rewind the tape a little bit and take you back to before I knew who she was and some dreams that I was having. I know y'all love dream guidance, me too.
Mhm.
And it was in our second year of our healing school, Brennan, towards the end and of second year, and I was starting to have dreams that you work for the Divine Mother now. And I was like, okay, cool. I mean, like, I've always felt a connection to Goddess for sure, but not really knowing what that means. Well, just knowing that it meant that my life was in service, and that is a big priority in my life, is to be of service. And another dream I had was I was working at a temple in the future in New York with many faces of the Divine Mother throughout the temple. And it was such a beautiful temple. And I was doing work there. And at the time, I didn't understand. I didn't know about like Seva. And so I was like, am I going to be a priestess? How do I become a priestess? And then the logical mind kicked in, and I was like Googling like how to become a priestess, and nothing felt right, of course. But meanwhile, about maybe a month later or so, we met our healing teacher for year 3 and 4. And I went to a talk that she had given about Ayurveda. And of course, she talked about Amma a little bit. And I was like, that's my teacher. I mean, I knew instinctively that she is talking about the Divine Mother. She'll help me on this path. I don't know where I'm supposed to go, but she'll help me. And then, we had the joy of being with her for 2 years, where she really brought Amma's energy and teaching to us in such a profound way. We got so much more. I mean, Brennan is already incredible in so much. And then on top of that, we got Amma. It was like, holy smokes. Meanwhile, she was talking about Amma for about 2 years. And at graduation, she's like, Amma's coming to San Francisco for Guna Purnima, a very big event. And she said, come, she'll really help your spine. I was working through some spine issues. And I hesitated. There was definitely like, I didn't know. That night, I ended up having the most beautiful dream about Amma. To make it short, I pledged my devotion to the Divine Mother and felt this ray of love just go into my heart like nothing I've ever felt before. And I just knew, okay, I got to book my ticket. I got to go to San Francisco. I got to meet her. And then meeting her, oh my goodness. I remember the first time she entered the building and I saw her and I just immediately tears, not full on tears, but my eyes were watering. And then when I went to sit in front of her, that's when the tears came. And the words are, "This is my true mother. This is my true mother." And I got to spend 5 days with her that first time in San Francisco. And it's hard to explain. It's really hard to explain unless you've experienced it. I am so grateful that we have the Brennan tools to sense energy, because that's really what I was tracking. So when I would close my eyes in front of her, I'd see a wall of white light. When she was talking about certain things, white light spirals would just be coming into the audience, just tremendous blessings. Sometimes her body would turn green. There's so much love. And actually, it was so much love. And I've never experienced that much unconditional love, feeling that and it being in the room with that in one place, that it really activated my nervous system, because I'm not used to that. You know, who's used to being in the same room as the Divine Mother and all that love and yumminess? So it was really interesting to feel, just to witness and work through the stuff that was coming up. It felt like sitting in meditation with her. It was like constant therapy. Her light is so bright. She shines onto all of your nooks and crannies. And you just have to witness and sit and love these parts of yourself and work with them. So grateful. And I got Shakti-Pod from her, which was like insane and incredible, where she puts her thumb on your third eye and clears all your past, present, future karma, and in terms of this life and past lives. And I'll always remember that I've never felt that peaceful in my entire life than how I did afterwards. And as soon as she put her thumb on my third eye, on my visual screen, on the inside of my mind, it was like this coin of a cow and flowers, which I had no idea, but turned out to be symbols of just the Divine Mother. The cow is so sacred. And Alma's constantly talking about flowers and essence of flowers.
I want to jump in and define. You said this is hard to describe, and I know this will be really hard to do, but kind of define Amma for maybe whoever we think the average listener might be, or maybe explain it to myself, the version of me 4 years ago.
Mm.
'Cause,
And the version of me 4 years ago.
yeah.
Yes.
So just at face value, Amma is a lady who lives in India, but she's referred to as an avatar as the divine. Yeah, Andrea's face right now, if you're not looking at the video, it's like she is far more than that. And that's what I'm working towards. So that's why I said face value. So I'm like, and that was me 4 years ago. I was like, okay, Amma's like another spiritual lady out of India. There's a lot of those. And so she was referred to as an avatar, and she's referred to as the Divine Mother. And I'm just going to speak my perspective, and then I'll have you bring yours in. And so
Love it.
from mine, she's this soul who is far beyond the human experience. And she is here on purpose with intention to help us and help us navigate these challenging times we're in. And she's here to be a gift. And so there's a piece of her consciousness in this physical body so that we can see her and talk to her and relate to her. I'll stop there, but I have some stories of my own around Amma, about how Amma came in to be more than just a spiritual lady out of India in my life as well.
Yeah, we need a whole Alma episode. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, you did a good job explaining. I think she really is the formless in form. So the Divine Mother, everything comes from her. She has created everything in this world, in all the worlds, in all the galaxies. She created God. She's created everything. So you have that consciousness in the body of a physical human being, as you said, to help us at this time on the earth, to lift us up, to guide us. And I can't express how much she's changed my life in less than a year. She is the reason why I'm making these huge life changes. Not that she would ever have said anything, but she's implanted the seeds in me to do more of the healing work, to understand more of who I am as a divine being, And I have never before had such a felt experience of the divine. And it is in my body now. Like, it's not a concept, it's not something abstract. It's like a very felt experience that I feel when I'm with her and when I'm not with her now. Jumping back to that first time I met her, I was in San Francisco, went home, the retreat was over. It's like, oh, well, that was awesome. And but it was still, at that time, I had those experiences, but I still could not understand how she was the divine mother. And then a few days later, I sit down to meditate and I feel her still with me. And the meditation went so much deeper than I possibly could have before. And I was like, oh, she's for real. And it was still a gradual process of that really sinking into me and my body and my consciousness. I would say it just gets more and more assured every day, every time I meditate with her, every time I see her. I remember the second time I saw her, it was about like a month later in Woodstock. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. That's cool. It was just like, I was still kind of surface about it. And then I got to the room where she was in, and I was just ecstatic to see her again. Didn't even realize how important it was. So just overjoyed to see her again and to be in her presence and to have that blessing. And I just love her so much. She's cracked open my heart and has given me life, is how I feel. I just credit her with everything, just my life. She's the reason I breathe.
Yeah, it seems like she's helping you find your authentic self more and more. Her being in her
Yes,
vibration, being in with her teachings.
absolutely. And so I am working. So my big image that I am working right now is that I am bad, I am wrong, I am undeserving, which I think as humans, we all have that programming somewhere in us. You might have to dig a while to get there, but it's there, I'm sure, on some level if you haven't already dealt with it. And she is really showing me through this felt experience of the divine is, how can I be so bad? If I have Amma in me, if I have the divine in me, and I can feel that, how am I so bad? I'm not bad. You're not bad. We're not bad. We're not bad. We're innocent. We might do things unconsciously, but it's because we don't know better. We're not bad. And that's what she's shown me, just so much unconditional love. Doesn't matter what I do, doesn't matter what anybody does. You don't have to achieve anything, you don't have to prove anything, just loves. And when you think about a mother who is in her highest intention, what does she want for her children? Just the best. She just wants the best for her children, and she wants to love them. And that's what I feel about her. She just wants to love and give and give.
Yeah, and that's all she's about. You sent me an interview of her, and somebody asked, Amma, what can we do to please you in this lifetime? And she kind of chuckled and said, I have no expectations in this dimension. And so I just love that answer because she's just about love. She doesn't need anything from anybody. And it also opens my mind up to, well, what other dimensions are there? Where are we going from here? And stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many dimensions. That's a whole nother story.
I just want to jump in because Brandon and I did our weekly group healing last week about feelings about the self. And so
good. It was so good. And I kept thinking about the line, which I think you're going to say.
Yeah, so the message channeled through me was the same thing, that these feelings about the self have been programmed to be a negative thing often in this society and in this time in which we're living. But we really are the divine and really are celestial and really are the light. And so shifting, seeing ourselves in that way, like I'm really not bad. And maybe my actions were from a place of not knowing or just innocence, naive, whatever it may be. But the core of our being, we are not bad. And helping us really in those moments when we did something that maybe negatively affected others, to not beat ourselves up about it. If we can shift that internal chatter to, okay, well, I'm learning, I'm going to be gentle with myself, remembering that I really am the divine.
Mm.
The divine wouldn't want me to do this, beat myself up, tell myself a story about how bad I am. And so I just felt like in that healing, all this information that you're saying Amma is saying and has really impacted your life, that same information was channeled through me. So I love the verification where it's coming from two different sources. And like we're saying, as healers and channels, we really are just the vessel through which the message
Mm.
comes without attachment, and it flows through us. So what
Mm.
better verification for all of us when it comes from two different sources, the same information.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I love that group healing. Oh my goodness, it was so yummy. If you're not subscribed to their group healing, I'm plugging it. Subscribe. Um,
Thank you.
and I just want to encourage people to follow whatever activity brings them back to themselves, whatever activity brings them back to the divine within, that makes them feel like their most joyous, most authentic self. Whether that's creating, whether that's meditating, whether that's, I know you all do your snowmobiling and all those fun things, whatever it is, just do that activity a lot. You get in practice with being in touch with your authentic self. You have practice being in touch with the divine. And it's just a muscle, right? Like the more you do it, the more you're going to feel that in your life. The more you're going to feel the divine. And it's just like we said before, it makes life so much yummier. It's so much
Mhm.
yummier.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, speaking a little bit more about Amma, we really wanted you all to get a chance to meet Andrea and her wonderful essence. And that's what this episode is about. We're speaking about Amma, but we agreed that we're going to come back together and do an episode dedicated to Amma. And we'll come through with plenty of mind blowing stories in that episode. But since we brought her up in this episode, we're going to leave you with a little bit of a mind blowing story or a couple just to stay true to the nature of this podcast here. And so we're going to talk about when you start to open up to the subtle energies, like things like we learned in our healing school, you get what a lot of people would maybe term, and the English language is so limited, but term like abilities or supernatural abilities. But the key word there is they're natural abilities. And so for my journey is like, whoa, you can affect people without touching them. And then it was like, whoa, you can affect people without touching them from the other side of the country or world. And it's about waking up to these abilities. And they're very impressive, but it's important not to get lost in how impressive they are. The key here is the soul growth and being your authentic self, like we've been talking about, and love. That's always the bottom line, never to get lost in the awe of those seemingly supernatural abilities. Nonetheless, they're part of the journey and they're fun to talk about. And we do a lot of that on this podcast. So Amma being at the level of consciousness that we've done our best to put words to. She, of course, comes with supernatural abilities that are of that level. And one of them is the ability to manifest objects out of nothing, thin air, you might say.
And I will say she does not talk about this at all or show anybody, except for a very few people.
Okay, so hopefully it's just
Yeah.
cool with us talking
So
about this.
where
Then.
like Sai Baba would manifest so many things right in front of people, like we say she's heavily veiled. So the people that need to see her, that are destined to see her, will see her. The people that it's not in this lifetime to have her in her life, they can't see her.
I jump in and say something about that. There's two Ammas. And so when I
Yes.
first learned about Amma Sri Karunamayi, who we're talking about, I would tell some people, or Amma would come up in conversation, and I quickly learned that they were talking about the hugging Amma. And so there's
Yes.
another Amma out of India that fills stadiums, and she's full of love and
Yes.
is said to be an avatar. And our teacher who introduced us to the Amma we're talking about today said, the hugging Amma is here for the many. Amma Sri Karunamayi is here for the few. And that has always stuck with us. So if you're listening to this episode right now and you're just got this like inner curiosity, like, oh my God, who is this Amma? I need to find out. There's probably a reason for that.
Yes. Yeah. She's calling you. She's calling you. Yeah. Any interest, any dream you have with her, it's really her. It's really her calling you forward. But yeah, the manifestation. So really interesting. I was just in Ojai like maybe a month ago to see Amma in California, and I didn't have a place to stay that night yet. I was gonna take an Uber pretty far away to go to a cheaper hotel in the next town. But I had to pick up my bag from the last hotel that I stayed at the night before. And while I was there, one of the other devotees was in the lobby, and I explained my weird idea to travel farther just to save like a couple hundred, or not a couple, like $100 something. And she's like, just stay with me. No big deal. Just come stay with me. And she was so awesome. She turned out to be very close with Amma, had been following her many, many, many years, I think over 20 or something, had even had a past life with Amma as one of her sisters. Just so, so beautiful. So she's on this interview, and she says that Amma sends her when Amma can't be there herself. So we really felt like this was all very divinely guided, that I was in this room with this beautiful woman sharing. And we stayed up most of the night just talking. And she told me all these incredible stories about Amma that she had witnessed and experienced herself. And some of that was manifestation. And she showed me, it was wild because she actually had the objects too. So one of them was something called a veil, Lord Subramani's veil. So it looks almost like a staff. And it was incredible to hold that. So I am sensitive to objects' energy, just by nature of what I do, being a fashion designer and a healer. And I just never felt anything like that object before. And then she had also a pair of her sandals, that she had a gold pair of sandals that Amma had manifested for this woman, that I also got to hold, that was just so beautiful. And then she had a bunch of jewelry that Amma had manifested for her. And when I asked her, how does it work? She said, it's just like,
She just flips her
you know,
wrist and just opens her hand and it's there, huh?
just like a flick in it. And I really do love though that Amma doesn't talk about it. Like she's not trying to draw people in, respectable. Like it feels like it's just really out of love for this one devotee that she gave her these gifts. And also I think she knew that she would also share and inspire, because the objects are very blessed. I received a blessing just holding them. The other thing that Amma manifests a lot is sacred ash, vibhuti it's called. So she told me a story and showed me pictures of when she was driving Amma somewhere, and this woman distributes the sacred ash to people. So if people are sick, it's really helpful for healing or injury or whatever. And this woman's so funny. When she runs out of the ash, she just says it in her mind, and then Amma knows. Even when she's not even in the physical location of Amma, she just says, okay, I need that ash. And then the next time she'll see Amma, Amma will give her all this ash.
I
But
love
this one
it.
time they were in a car and she was driving Amma. And I don't know if she had thought it before or in the car, but Amma goes to leave. She looks in the car at the floor of the car, and there's just all of this ash. And then her feet, her footprints, just out of nowhere. And I have that picture. It's so beautiful.
Wow.
This woman also is a photographer, and so she's been able to capture some of Amma's incredible essence. One time, Amma was leaving, and whenever Amma leaves somewhere, we all run outside and wave goodbye, and we try to spend as much time as we can with her. And Amma usually puts her hand out like this. And this particular time, this woman was able to take a photograph of when she was doing that. And in the photograph, a flower is coming out of Amma's hand.
Oh,
No
wow.
flowers anywhere in real life. Out of Amma's hand, this flower was appearing. And the photographer was so surprised when she saw the photo. And she goes later to Amma, like, look at this photo. What happened? What's happening there? And then Amma's like, you captured divinity. And she just giggled. That's what Amma always does. She just
Aw.
giggles. Like, she just giggles. She's so awesome. So beautiful. And then there was another picture where Amma again is going away in the car. And usually she's wearing her beautiful saris. So never usually has flowers everywhere in the car. But in this picture, somehow her sari looks like a garden of flowers. It's literally like a garden of 3D flowers. It looks like one of my students took fabric flowers and hot glued them all over a sari. It's like, what am I seeing?
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
Oh,
How beautiful. Heck yeah.
But that being said, all of those amazing stories, the true miracle is her love and being in her presence.
Mm. Awesome.
And that for that, I'm so grateful.
Awesome.
Absolutely. And I want to jump in with the manifestation stories. I don't have any personal experiences of my own, but there's power in stories. And so I'd like to retell a story that our teacher told us in year 3 or 4. And you mentioned when you started speaking about Sai Baba and how he would manifest lingams, which are balls of gold that would come out of his throat and mouth and into his hand. And our teacher witnessed this in person, and she came back and she was on some sort of level with Barbara, who was the founder of the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, and told Barbara about this, and Barbara didn't believe her. And so our teacher just had to accept the fact that another one of her spiritual mentors doesn't believe in experience that she has, and life carried on. And I believe it was years later, I could have the time frame wrong. Barbara called our teacher out of the blue and says, "I saw how they do it. I see how they do it." And Barbara accepted and figured out that there is the ability some people carry to manifest things out of nowhere. And I guess with the lingams, it starts in the heart and then comes up
Mm.
through the throat and out the mouth, and ball of
Wow.
gold in your hand.
I love when she shared that story with us. She actually talked about she was tracking him with her HSP because her HSP is so good that she could actually see when the lingam was going to come. Because I think they were sitting in meditation for quite a while. And she, I think, turned to whoever she was with and was just like, "It's coming. Don't close your eyes. Don't blink. Don't sneeze.
Wow.
Don't move."
Yeah, right?
Wow. And HSB is like high sense perception, ability to perceive things beyond the normal 5 physical senses. And that's incredible. I mean, that blows my
Yeah.
mind. So if you aren't sitting there going, "That's a bunch of bullshit," then then maybe your mind is blown. And if you are sitting there saying that, then maybe you'll be like Barbara, and a few years from now, you'll have an experience. And
Yeah, do the purification work and then you'll
yeah,
Yeah.
then come back
exactly.
to us.
You got to do the work, do the work.
And I want to say too, just pay attention to your dreams. I feel like we're always saying that, but Andrea came to me in a dream with some messages from Amma. And so you had spoke about when Amma cannot be there, that she sends her messengers. So you are a messenger for her. She did not come directly to me. And so just want you to take that in. And these are messages that I really needed to hear. The dream took place in my childhood house. So it's like healing childhood consciousness. And they were about coming into my soul essence, my core light, and about not seeing myself as dark or bad and really believing in myself. So they were very inspiring messages. And so, like Andrea is saying, if Alma's calling you, she'll show up in your dreams, or maybe a messenger will show up in your dreams. But the veil between this world and the others is very thin, and it's all real according to me in my mind. It's just happening at different levels of consciousness. So, just want to throw that out there in case any of you have dreams about any of this, to not disregard them.
Yeah. And as I teased earlier, we'll have an Amma episode, and I have a handful of Amma dreams. So look forward to that sometime in the future.
Yeah.
At this point in our podcast, let's jump into our soulful send off.
All right. So for me, I feel like everything is divine, and the people you meet, the conversations you have, your dreams, what's in your heart, paying attention to all that and really trying to live your best life and paying attention to the signs around you to help you do that, because the divine is out there trying to help us. We just have to really be attentive to the guidance that's coming in, the synchronicities, things like that, and then just following those things. And I think you beautifully expressed in this episode living in love and essence, and that's what really matters in life. And we all have to live in this world, but just keeping that in mind, we all have to pay our bills, but at the end of the day, what really matters, were you kind to someone? Were you kind to your partner, to your animals, to those you live with, to the stranger you meet? Did you spread love and light as much as you could? Did you accept and receive love and light when it was presented to you, so that you, in your moment of need, could be uplifted? So I think as we all pass around a better version of ourselves, like just being open to the beauty and the divinity around us is how I feel.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. For me, just looking back on this episode, so many things were touched upon, from family lineages and breaking the patterns of that and doing the process work and facing darkness and transforming it and accepting it, to plant medicine, to chakras, to unique essence, and then Amma, of course, and getting assistance from people who've walked the path before us. And it's just real mind opening for me to consider everything that we talked about in this episode. There's so many possibilities. And I love when Andrea highlighted the importance of looking at all aspects of life in a divine way and realizing it's all divine. It all plays a role in the process and in the purification work and the importance of that. And so the journey never ends, but it certainly can be fun. And there's always an ebb and flow and a expansion and contraction, and just becoming good at riding those waves and do it from the heart and do it from authenticity.
Mm,
Mm.
beautiful. Both of you summed that up so beautifully. Yeah, I would just say it's all love. It's all love. Everything is love. Your whole life is love. And the work is to just feel it and to just work on accepting it and work on receiving it. That's everything. Sophia, you were talking about kindness, so I just want to bring up this project I'm working on called Random Threads of Kindness, where I am gifting my clothes to people that are willing to pledge an act of kindness in efforts just to spread kindness, spread the love, and to unify us, especially this coming year and possible divisions. So if you go on my Instagram, Andrea underscore Diodati, Diodati. And again, I'm also a fashion designer and educator, and I'm really passionate about just raising awareness about waste and what happens when we donate our clothes to thrift stores. Only 30% gets sold, and then it ends up in landfill or halfway across the world. So it's a big mix of kindness and education. And so, yeah, check it out.
Awesome.
And I think that's really, really beautiful that you're doing that. And I know from talking to Andrea outside of this podcast that these aren't the $5 t-shirts that I have in my closet. These clothes have value, and it's really touching and from the heart that she decided to pass them on in this way. And I can feel the ripple effect that you're having with this choice, and the ripple effect of the acts of kindness, of course, but the joy that your very awesome and intentful clothing is going to bring to other people's lives.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Awesome.
Love you both.
Oh, we love you
I love
too.
you too, Andrea. Thank you so much for being on our podcast.
Thank you.
Yay, this was so fun.
Yes, it was. Big love. Every week, we share our most recent divine guidance in an audio recording called Oracle Offerings. Sign up for only $5 a month at patreon.com/aspenroots.